The crowd roars as Eric Young's experimental spacecraft slices through the finish line hologram, shattering the previous course record. Tara, the Illyrian diplomat, feels her heart race and her skin flush as she watches from the VIP viewing platform. Her alien biology reacts intensely to the human pilot's display of skill and bravery. Eric's daring maneuvers during the high-stakes interstellar flight competition have left his alien competitors in the dust. His ship, a sleek fusion of human ingenuity and cutting-edge technology, pushes the very limits of physics. As he navigates through impossible turns and accelerates beyond what was thought capable, the true nature of the competition becomes clear. This is no mere race. It's a test to determine which species will lead a joint military operation against an encroaching threat to both human and Illyrian territories. Eric's victory secures humanity's position at the helm of this crucial mission, a fact that doesn't sit well with several influential Illyrian military leaders in attendance. As Eric's craft touches down in the hangar, the applause is deafening. He emerges from the cockpit, his flight suit clinging to his sweat-soaked body. His eyes scan the crowd, eventually locking with Tara's intense gaze from across the room. A moment of electric tension passes between them, sparking curiosity and something more primal. The scene shifts to a lavish diplomatic reception following the competition. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over the gathering of human and Illyrian dignitaries. Eric, now cleaned up and dressed in a sharp uniform, navigates the crowd. He stops short when he's formally introduced to Tara. Up close, the sexual tension between them is palpable. Tara's iridescent skin seems to shimmer more intensely in Eric's presence, while he struggles to maintain his composure. Their interaction causes visible discomfort among the gathered officials, who shift uneasily and exchange worried glances. It becomes abundantly clear that any relationship between Eric and Tara would be politically problematic. Humans and Illyrians are engaged in delicate negotiations for a military alliance, and a personal entanglement between a key human asset and the daughter of the Illyrian High Council leader could jeopardize everything. As they converse, Eric learns that Tara will be serving as the Illyrian liaison on his upcoming mission. The news sends a jolt through him. They'll be forced to work closely together despite the growing attraction. The prospect is both thrilling and daunting. Meanwhile, in a darkened corner of the reception hall, a group of hardline Illyrian military officers huddle together, their faces twisted with resentment. They view Eric's victory as a threat to Illyrian superiority and the implications for human-Illyrian relations as dangerous. In hushed tones, they begin plotting to sabotage the joint military operation and eliminate Eric. As the reception continues, the stage is set for a complex web of political intrigue, military action, and forbidden attraction. Eric and Tara stand at the center of it all, their shared glances across the room hinting at the tumultuous journey that lies ahead. As the reception continued, Eric found himself constantly drawn back to Tara, their eyes meeting across the crowded room. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension, a mix of attraction and the weight of their newfound responsibilities. Days later, Eric stood before a diverse group of human and Illyrian pilots, his posture straight and his voice clear as he outlined the training exercises ahead. Tara stood nearby, her iridescent skin catching the light as she translated his words for the Illyrian contingent. "Today's simulation will test our ability to work as a cohesive unit," Eric explained, his gaze sweeping across the assembled pilots. "We'll face unexpected challenges that will require quick thinking and seamless coordination." As the pilots took their positions in the advanced simulation pods, Eric and Tara moved to the control room. Their hands brushed as they both reached for the same control panel, sending a jolt of electricity through Eric's body. He cleared his throat, focusing on the task at hand. The simulation began, and Eric watched intently as the human and Illyrian pilots navigated a complex asteroid field. Suddenly, red warning lights flashed across the screens. "Surprise attack incoming!" Eric called out, his fingers flying over the controls. "Illyrian squadrons, break left. Humans provide covering fire." The Illyrian pilots hesitated, unused to taking orders from a human. In that split second of indecision, Eric saw the danger. Without hesitation, he overrode the simulation controls, manually guiding the Illyrian ships into a defensive formation. His quick action saved the Illyrian pilots from being picked off by the simulated enemy. As the exercise concluded, Eric could see the grudging respect in the eyes of some Illyrian officers who had observed the simulation. Later, as Eric was reviewing the simulation data, Tara approached him. "Your tactics were unconventional," she said, her voice a mix of curiosity and admiration. Eric smiled, running a hand through his short hair. "Sometimes you have to think outside the box to survive out there." Their conversation drifted from the simulation to their personal interests. Eric found himself captivated by Tara's passion for xenobiology, while she listened intently to his stories about human cultural practices. As they talked, they unconsciously moved closer to each other. Eric could see the intricate patterns on Tara's skin, a mesmerizing display of colors that seemed to pulse with her emotions. He felt an overwhelming urge to reach out and touch her. Tara's breath caught as Eric leaned in, their faces mere inches apart. The air between them seemed to hum with energy. Just as Eric's hand brushed against Tara's arm, a gruff voice shattered the moment. "Liaison Tara, a word." They jumped apart, turning to see General Zax, his craggy Illyrian features set in a disapproving scowl. Tara straightened, her professional mask sliding back into place. "Of course, General," she replied, casting an apologetic glance at Eric before following Zax out of the room. Over the next few days, Eric found himself struggling with an inexplicable fatigue. His reflexes during simulations were slower, and he often found himself blinking away strange visual distortions. He attributed it to the stress of his new role, pushing himself harder to compensate. Tara noticed the change in Eric's demeanor. During a brief moment alone, she approached him, concern evident in her eyes. "Eric, are you all right? You seem, off." Eric tried to smile reassuringly, but it came out as more of a grimace. "Just tired, I guess. Nothing to worry about." Unconvinced, Tara began to discreetly investigate. She accessed the environmental control systems, her suspicions growing as she noticed subtle anomalies in the atmospheric composition of the human quarters. As Tara delved deeper into her investigation, a group of Illyrian officers huddled in a secluded corner of the base. Commander Vex, his eyes gleaming with malice, addressed his co-conspirators. "The humans are weakening," he hissed, "but we can't risk them uncovering our plan. It's time to take more decisive action." Meanwhile, Eric prepared for a crucial test flight of his modified spacecraft. The new technologies he would be demonstrating were vital to the joint operation's success. As he ran through his pre-flight checklist, he shook his head, trying to clear the fog that seemed to have settled over his mind. In the control room, Tara watched Eric's preparations with growing alarm. She had just uncovered evidence of tampering with Eric's craft, but before she could act on this information, she felt a heavy hand on her shoulder. "Liaison Tara," General Zax's voice was low and threatening. "I hope you're not planning to interfere with today's test flight." Tara's mind raced as she realized the full extent of the conspiracy. She opened her mouth to protest, but Zax cut her off. "Think carefully about your next move," he warned. "Your family's position in the High Council is precarious. It would be a shame if they were to fall from grace due to your misplaced loyalties." Tara felt her heart pounding as she watched Eric's spacecraft begin its launch sequence. She knew she had to find a way to warn him, but with Zax watching her every move, her options were limited. As the engines roared to life and Eric's craft lifted off the launch pad, Tara's mind whirled with possible solutions. She knew that Eric's life hung in the balance, and with it, the future of human-Illyrian relations. The spacecraft climbed higher into the sky, carrying Eric towards an unknown danger. While on the ground, the complex web of political intrigue, sabotage, and forbidden attraction continued to tighten around them all. As Eric's spacecraft lifted off the launch pad, Tara felt her heart racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Her suspicions were confirmed moments later when the craft began to veer erratically, its trajectory becoming increasingly unstable. In the cockpit, Eric grappled with the controls, his experienced hands working furiously to stabilize the ship. Warning lights flashed across his console as system after system began to fail. He gritted his teeth, realizing that this was no ordinary malfunction. "Control, I'm experiencing multiple system failures," Eric reported, his voice tense but controlled. Attempting to abort mission and return to base. Tara watched in horror as the situation unfolded on the monitors before her. She could see Eric's vital signs spiking as he fought to regain control of the craft. The atmosphere in the control room grew thick with tension as both humans and Illyrians realized the gravity of the situation. Unable to stand by any longer, Tara made a split-second decision. Ignoring General Zax's threatening glare, she lunged for the emergency communications panel. "Eric, listen carefully," she said, her voice urgent. "Your ship has been sabotaged. The primary control systems and landing gear have been compromised. You need to—" "Silence her," General Zax bellowed, but it was too late. Armed with this critical information, Eric's mind raced through possible solutions. He knew he couldn't land conventionally, but perhaps there was another way. "Copy that, Tara," Eric responded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "I'm going to attempt an atmospheric deceleration." Eric tilted the nose of the craft upward, using the planet's atmosphere to create drag. The ship shuddered violently as it plummeted through the sky, the hull temperature rising rapidly. Warning klaxons blared as the craft pushed against its structural limits. In the control room, humans and Illyrians alike watched in awe as Eric executed a series of maneuvers that defied conventional piloting. The craft spiraled and banked, bleeding off speed while maintaining a controlled descent. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. Tara's eyes widened as she saw new data flashing across her screen. "Eric, evade! The base's defense systems have been activated," she shouted into the comm. As if on cue, a barrage of energy bolts streaked past Eric's craft. He jerked the controls, narrowly avoiding the attacks. The ship groaned under the stress of his evasive maneuvers. On the ground, chaos erupted. Human security forces clashed with Illyrian saboteurs, their firefight spilling through the corridors of the base. Loyal Illyrians, realizing the extent of the betrayal, joined the humans in subduing the conspirators. Amidst the fray, General Zax attempted to slip away unnoticed. He made it as far as the hangar before finding himself surrounded by a group of human and Illyrian officers, their weapons trained on him. Above the base, Eric continued his desperate struggle to keep the craft airborne. He intentionally overloaded several auxiliary systems, redirecting power to maintain minimal control over the ship's trajectory. "I'm losing altitude fast," Eric reported, his voice strained. "Attempting emergency water landing in the nearby lake." Tara's heart leaped into her throat. Without hesitation, she sprinted towards the hangar, shoving past the stunned onlookers. She jumped into a rescue shuttle, firing up the engines before anyone could stop her. As Tara's shuttle lifted off, she saw Eric's craft skimming the surface of the lake. It hit the water with a tremendous splash, skipping once before coming to rest on the surface. Water began to seep into the cockpit as the damaged hull succumbed to the pressure. Tara maneuvered her shuttle directly over Eric's sinking craft. She activated the rescue winch and dove into the frigid water without a second thought. Swimming to the cockpit, she saw Eric struggling with his harness, the water now up to his chest. Their eyes met through the cracked canopy, a moment of shared drive passing between them. Tara wrenched the emergency release, and together they pushed the canopy open. She helped Eric free himself from the harness and supported him as they swam to the surface. As they broke through the water's surface, gasping for air, the rescue winch's cable descended. Tara secured it around Eric, and they were both lifted to safety aboard the shuttle. Back at the base, the situation was under control. The saboteurs, including Commander Vex and General Zax, had been apprehended. Human and Illyrian officials worked quickly to contain the diplomatic fallout, recognizing the incident as the work of a radical faction rather than a sanctioned act. As medical teams attended to Eric's injuries, Tara remained by his side, their hands intertwined. The shared ordeal had forged a bond between them that transcended species and political boundaries. High-ranking officials from both races gathered to discuss the implications of the day's events. They couldn't ignore the instrumental role that Eric and Tara's cooperation had played in averting disaster. Murmurs of reconsidering the stance on interspecies relationships began to circulate among the gathered dignitaries. Eric, despite his exhaustion, insisted on being present for the initial questioning of the conspirators. As he entered the room, supported by Tara, a hush fell over the assembled officials. The incident had transformed Eric from a skilled pilot into a symbol of human resilience and adaptability. The stage was set for a new chapter in human-Illyrian relations, one that promised greater cooperation and understanding. As Eric and Tara exchanged a meaningful glance, they knew that their journey together was a long way to go. Still far from complete, the revelations of the past few days had shaken the foundations of human-Illyrian cooperation, but they had also presented an opportunity for growth and change. In the weeks following the incident, Eric found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. His heroic actions during the sabotage test flight had not gone unnoticed by the Joint Military Command. As he recovered from his injuries, he was summoned to a series of high-level meetings with both human and Illyrian officials. Lieutenant Young, Admiral Chen, the human commander, addressed him during one such meeting. "Your quick thinking and exceptional piloting skills have demonstrated the potential of our alliance. We believe it's time to take our cooperation to the next level." General Crix, the Illyrian representative, nodded in agreement. "We propose the formation of an elite squadron, combining the best pilots from both our species. And we want you to lead it, Lieutenant." Eric's eyes widened in surprise. "Sir, I'm honored, but—" "No buts, Young," Admiral Chen cut him off. "You've proven yourself capable of adapting to Illyrian technology and tactics. That's exactly what we need in a leader for this initiative." As Eric absorbed the weight of this new responsibility, he couldn't help but glance at Tara, who stood at attention nearby. Her expression remained neutral, but he caught a glimmer of pride in her eyes. The next few days were a blur of activity as Eric worked with the command staff to select pilots for the new squadron. He insisted on a rigorous selection process, testing not only piloting skills, but also adaptability and cross-species cooperation. Amidst the chaos of squadron formation, Eric found himself working more closely with Tara than ever before. They were tasked with developing a comprehensive training program that would bridge the gap between human and Illyrian piloting techniques. Late one night, as they pored over flight data in a dimly lit operations room, Eric felt the familiar tension building between them. Tara leaned in close, pointing out an anomaly in the data, her skin shimmering with a subtle bioluminescence that seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat. "Eric," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "I've been meaning to thank you properly for what you did during the test flight. If you hadn't—" Eric turned to face her, their faces mere inches apart. "Tara, The words died in his throat as he looked into her eyes. In that moment, the professional boundaries they had struggled to maintain crumbled. Eric leaned in, his lips meeting Tara's in a passionate kiss. She responded with equal fervor, her hands moving to caress the nape of his neck. As they broke apart, breathless, Eric marveled at the tingling sensation where Tara's skin had touched his. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a blend of physical and almost electrical stimulation that left him craving more. Tara's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and desire evident in her expression. "Eric, we shouldn't— the regulations." But even as she spoke, her body language betrayed her words. Eric pulled her close again, and this time there was no hesitation. They came together in a passionate embrace, their bodies intertwining as they explored the uncharted territory of human Illyrian intimacy. The next morning, as Eric made his way to the briefing room, he could feel the eyes of both humans and Illyrians following him. Word of his encounter with Tara had spread quickly, eliciting a wide range of reactions from their colleagues. As he entered the room, Admiral Chen and General Crix were engaged in a heated discussion. They fell silent as Eric approached, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. "Lieutenant Young," Admiral Chen began, his tone carefully neutral, "we need to discuss the implications of your relationship with Liaison Tara." Before Eric could respond, the door burst open, and a breathless junior officer rushed in. "Sirs, we've just received urgent intelligence. The conspirators have revealed the existence of a larger plot." General Crix's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "It's a group called the Purity Vanguard, sir," the officer continued. "They have sleeper agents throughout Illyrian society and military. Their goal is to prevent any alliance with humans and maintain Illyrian dominance in the galaxy." The room erupted into a flurry of activity as officials scrambled to assess the new threat. Eric's personal situation was momentarily forgotten in the face of this larger crisis. As the briefing continued, another officer burst into the room. "Sirs, we've detected unusual activity near the research facility on Epsilon Moon. It matches the patterns we've identified as potential Purity Vanguard operations." Admiral Chen turned to Eric, his expression grave. "Lieutenant, it looks like your new squadron is about to get its first real test. We need you to defend that facility at all costs. The data and prototypes there are critical to our upcoming operation against the encroaching threat." Eric nodded, his mind already shifting into mission mode. "Understood, sir. When do we leave?" "Immediately," General Crix interjected, "and Liaison Tara will accompany you as a strategic advisor." As Eric left the briefing room to prepare his squadron, he caught sight of Tara waiting for him in the corridor. Their eyes met and a silent understanding passed between them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Within the hour, Eric's squadron was lined up on the launch pad, their sleek, hybrid fighters humming with energy. As he climbed into his cockpit, Eric saw Tara boarding the command shuttle. She gave him a small nod, her expression a mix of grit and something deeper, more personal. "All units, this is Fusion Leader." Eric's voice crackled over the comm as his fighter lifted off. "Form up on me. We've got a long flight ahead, and we don't know what we'll find when we reach Epsilon Moon. Stay sharp and watch each other's backs." As the squadron rose into the atmosphere, their ships forming a perfect arrowhead formation, Eric couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would test more than just their military capabilities. It would challenge the very foundation of human Illyrian cooperation and his own ability to lead in the face of personal complications. Unknown to Eric and his squadron, a cloaked vessel detached itself from the shadows of the launch bay, silently following in their wake. Aboard the ship, a group of Purity Vanguard operatives prepared for the confrontation to come, their faces set with unbreakable spirit. As the stars streaked by outside his cockpit, Eric steeled himself for the challenges ahead. Whatever the Purity Vanguard had planned, he and his team would be ready. The fate of two species and the future of galactic peace hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. As Eric's squadron approached Epsilon Moon, the tension in the cockpit was palpable. The facility's distinctive dome came into view, its metallic surface gleaming under the distant sun's rays. "Fusion Squadron, maintain formation," Eric commanded, his eyes scanning the seemingly empty space around them. "Something's not right. Stay alert." Suddenly, his sensors lit up with multiple signals. "Incoming, cloaked vessels decloaking at Mark 340. The space around them shimmered as Purity Vanguard ships materialized, their sleek, predatory forms dripping with weapons. Eric's heart raced as he realized they were vastly outnumbered. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted, pushing his fighter into a tight spiral. His squadron followed suit, narrowly avoiding the first volley of enemy fire. Tara's voice crackled over the comm from the command ship. "Eric, I'm analyzing their attack patterns. There's a weakness in their formation at the trailing edge." Eric processed the information quickly. "Copy that. Fusion 2 and 3. Form up on me. We're going to punch through their flank." He led the charge, his hybrid fighters' engines screaming as he pushed them to their limits. The enemy's formation wavered as Eric's team exploited the gap Tara had identified. Laser fire crisscrossed the void, and Eric's ship shuddered as a glancing blow struck his port side. Warning lights flashed across his console. "Hull breach in Section 4, the ship's AI reported calmly. "Sealing now." Eric gritted his teeth, ignoring the hiss of escaping atmosphere. He barrel-rolled his craft, lining up a shot on an enemy fighter. His targeting computer beeped a lock, and he unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts, reducing the Purity Vanguard ship to space debris. On the command ship, Tara watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and concern. Her skin pulsed with bioluminescence, a physiological response to the intense emotions coursing through her. Every daring maneuver Eric executed sent a shiver of excitement through her alien biology. "Eric," she called out, her voice tight with worry, "a Purity Vanguard boarding party has breached the facility's defenses. They're inside," Eric cursed under his breath. "Understood. Fusion 4 through 8. Continue space engagement. 2 and 3, you're with me. We're landing. As Eric's fighter touched down on the moon's surface, Tara's voice came through again. I'm coming with you. Negative, Eric replied, already moving towards the facility's entrance. It's too dangerous. I know the facility's layout and Illyrian tactics, Tara argued. You need me down there. Eric hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, but stay close. The moment Tara's shuttle landed, she sprinted to join Eric's team. They entered the facility, the stark contrast between the serene corridors and the sounds of distant combat creating an eerie atmosphere. As they rounded a corner, they encountered a group of Purity Vanguard soldiers. Eric reacted instantly, diving for cover behind a bulkhead as energy bolts sizzled past. Tara moved with inhuman grace, her Illyrian reflexes allowing her to dodge the incoming fire. Flank them! Eric shouted to his team. He provided covering fire as they maneuvered into position. The firefight was intense but brief. The combined skills of the human Illyrian team proved too much for the Purity Vanguard soldiers. As the last enemy fell, Eric realized he and Tara had become separated from the rest of the group. We need to regroup, Eric said, his breathing heavy. Tara shook her head. No time. We need to secure the research data and prevent them from destroying the facility. They moved through the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. As they passed a darkened laboratory, Eric suddenly pulled Tara inside, pressing her against the wall. A patrol of Purity Vanguard soldiers marched past, oblivious to their presence. In the dim light, Eric became acutely aware of Tara's proximity. Her skin glowed faintly, illuminating her alien features. Their eyes met, and the tension between them crackled like electricity. Without thinking, Eric leaned in, his lips meeting Tara's. The kiss was passionate, urgent, their bodies pressing together as if trying to merge. Tara's alien physiology responded in ways Eric had never experienced, sending jolts of pleasure through his entire being. Their moment of intimacy was shattered by nearby voices. They froze, listening intently. Set the charges in the power core, one voice said. Once we have the data, we'll blow this place sky high. Eric and Tara exchanged a look of alarm. They had to act fast. I'll secure the data in the control room, Eric whispered. You handle the power core. Tara nodded, her expression a mix of drive and lingering desire. Be careful, she said softly. They shared one last intense look before parting ways, each acutely aware that it might be the last time they saw each other. Eric moved swiftly through the facility, his combat training kicking in as he dispatched Purity Vanguard soldiers with ruthless efficiency. He reached the control room, only to find the facility's AI system had been compromised. Come on, he muttered, his fingers flying over the console as he attempted to override the AI's protocols. Time was running out, and he could hear the sounds of approaching enemy forces. Meanwhile, Tara navigated the facility's ventilation system, her Illyrian physiology allowing her to move with silent agility. She emerged near the power core, her heart sinking as she saw the Purity Vanguard had already begun the destabilization process. As Tara engaged the enemy forces guarding the power core, Eric finally broke through the AI's defenses. He initiated the data transfer, watching anxiously as the progress bar inched forward. Tara, come in, he called over the comm. There was no response. The sound of an explosion rocked the facility. Eric's blood ran cold. He had to get to Tara. With the data secure, Eric fought his way towards the power core. Each step was a battle, but nothing could stop his determined advance. He reached the entrance to the power core chamber, the sounds of intense combat echoing from within. Eric took a deep breath, checking his weapon. Whatever lay beyond that door, he was ready to face it. With fierce dedication, Eric prepared to breach the chamber, knowing that everything hung in the balance. The fate of the facility, the crucial research, and most importantly, Tara, depended on what happened next. In the next few moments, with a deep breath, he pushed the door open and rushed into the chamber. The scene that greeted him was chaos incarnate. Tara moved with fluid grace, her Illyrian physiology allowing her to dodge and weave through a hail of energy bolts. She was surrounded by Purity Vanguard soldiers, their weapons trained on her as she fought desperately to reach the power core controls. Eric didn't hesitate. He dove into the fray, his human combat training kicking in as he engaged the nearest enemy. His sudden appearance caught the Purity Vanguard off guard, creating an opening for Tara to exploit. "Eric!" she called out, her voice a mix of relief and urgency. "Cover me while I stabilize the core." He nodded, positioning himself between Tara and the bulk of the enemy forces. Eric's precise shots found their marks, dropping Purity Vanguard soldiers with ruthless efficiency. Meanwhile, Tara's fingers flew over the core's control panel, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with concentration. The two moved in perfect synchronization, their different fighting styles complementing each other. Eric's direct, aggressive approach kept the enemy at bay, while Tara's agility and quick thinking allowed her to outmaneuver those who slipped past him. As the last Purity Vanguard soldier fell, Tara let out a triumphant cry. "Core stabilized! We've averted the meltdown!" Eric allowed himself a moment of relief, but it was short-lived. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility, their urgent wailing cutting through the sudden silence. "Fusion leader, come in!" The voice of his second-in-command crackled over his comm. "We've got a massive problem up here." "Report," Eric snapped, already moving towards the exit with Tara close behind. "A Purity Vanguard fleet just dropped out of FTL. They've got us outnumbered at least 10-1. The facility's defenses are failing fast under their assault." Eric and Tara exchanged a grim look. "We're on our way," he replied, breaking into a run. They sprinted through the corridors, the sounds of distant explosions growing louder with each passing moment. As they reached the hangar, Eric's heart sank. The vast majority of their ships lay in ruins, victims of Purity Vanguard sabotage. "There!" Tara pointed to a corner of the hangar where two ships remained intact. One was Eric's fighter, its hull scarred and damaged from the earlier battle. The other was a sleek, unfamiliar craft that seemed to blend human and Illyrian design elements. "What is that?" Eric asked, approaching the strange ship. Tara's eyes widened in recognition. "It's the prototype we've been developing, a hybrid of our technologies, designed for two pilots, but it's never been tested in combat." Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. "Looks like it's about to be," Eric said grimly. "Let's go." They clambered into the prototype's cockpit, finding it cramped but surprisingly comfortable. The console lit up as they settled into their seats, displays flickering to life in a mix of human and Illyrian scripts. Eric's hands moved over the controls, but the ship responded sluggishly. "Something's wrong," he muttered. Tara frowned, her own attempts to engage the systems, meeting with similar resistance. "The ship's designed to interface with both our physiologies. We need to synchronize our inputs." They locked eyes, a moment of understanding passing between them. Without a word, they reached out, their hands intertwining over the central control panel. The effect was immediate. The ship hummed to life, systems engaging smoothly as if responding to a single pilot rather than two. "Here goes nothing," Eric said, engaging the launch sequence. The prototype shot out of the hangar just as Purity Vanguard forces breached the entrance. Eric and Tara found themselves in the midst of a raging space battle. The human Illyrian fleet was scattered, struggling against the overwhelming Purity Vanguard force. "Fusion Squadron, form up on me," Eric called out, guiding the prototype into the heart of the conflict. The ship responded beautifully, its advanced systems allowing them to outmaneuver the enemy fighters with ease. Eric and Tara worked in perfect harmony, their growing bond translating into an unprecedented level of control over the craft. As they tore through the Purity Vanguard formations, their unprecedented performance drew attention. A massive ship at the center of the enemy fleet turned its focus on them. "Eric," Tara's voice was tight with emotion. "That's the Purity Vanguard flagship. And that's my brother Karan, commanding it." Before Eric could respond, Karan's voice boomed over the general comm channel. "Attention, abomination! All forces concentrate fire on that hybrid ship. Destroy it at all costs." The space around them erupted into a storm of energy bolts and missiles. Eric and Tara's hands moved in concert, guiding the prototype through the deadly barrage. Their maneuvers grew increasingly daring, their bodies pressed together in the cramped cockpit as they anticipated each other's movements with uncanny precision. As they wove through the assault, Eric noticed something strange. The ship seemed to be responding not just to their physical inputs, but to their very thoughts. "Tara," he called out, "are you feeling this?" She nodded, her skin pulsing with excitement. "The ship's interfacing directly with our nervous systems. It's enhancing our reaction times, our coordination. I've never experienced anything like this." Their newfound connection with the ship allowed them to perform impossible feats of piloting. They spiraled through the heart of Karan's personal squadron, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Suddenly, the Purity Vanguard flagship's main cannon flared to life. Eric and Tara barely managed to evade the massive energy beam, but the near miss created a localized spatial anomaly in its wake. "We're caught in its gravitational pull," Tara shouted, her hands flying over the controls in an attempt to break free. Eric could see the rest of the human Illyrian fleet trying to reach them, but the anomaly's interference kept them at bay. As they were dragged deeper into the strange phenomenon, Eric turned to Tara. Their eyes met, a lifetime of unspoken emotions passing between them in that single moment. "Tara," Eric said, his voice barely above a whisper, "if we don't make it out of this—" She cut him off, her hand squeezing his. "We will. Together." With a shared nod of grit, they diverted all power to the experimental drive core. The surge of energy interacted with the anomaly, creating a blinding flash of light that engulfed their ship. When the light faded, the prototype was gone, leaving both fleets in stunned silence. The battle came to an abrupt halt as the combatants tried to process what they had just witnessed. In the vast emptiness of space where Eric and Tara's ship had been, a faint energy signature pulsed, barely detectable on long-range sensors. It was a signal that would soon spark a joint human-Illyrian rescue mission, venturing into the unknown depths of the galaxy in search of their missing heroes. As the prototype ship vanished into the unknown, leaving behind only a faint energy signature, both fleets hung suspended in space, processing the implications of what they had just witnessed. The stunned silence was broken by a crackling transmission from the human Illyrian command ship. "All units, form up and prepare for immediate withdrawal. We need to regroup and analyze this situation." As the Allied fleet began to pull back, the Purity Vanguard forces seemed equally shaken. Their formation wavered, the loss of their primary target throwing their battle plans into disarray. Aboard the command ship, a tense meeting was already underway. Human and Illyrian leaders gathered around a holographic display, their faces etched with concern and purpose. "We can't abandon them," declared Captain Sarah Chen, Eric's second-in-command. "That energy signature is our only lead. We need to mount a rescue mission immediately." Lyra, Tara's closest Illyrian colleague, nodded in agreement. Her bioluminescent skin pulsed with urgency as she spoke. "The prototype ship's unique energy signature should be traceable, even across vast distances. We have the technology to follow it." After hours of heated debate and careful planning, a joint rescue fleet was assembled. Led by members of Eric's squadron and a team of Illyrian scientists, the fleet set out into the uncharted depths of space, following the faint trail left behind by the prototype ship. Days stretched into weeks as the rescue fleet pushed further into unexplored territory. The crew worked tirelessly, recalibrating sensors and analyzing data streams, searching for any sign of their missing comrades. On the bridge of the lead ship, Jake Thompson, Eric's wingman, stood beside Lyra, both of them fixated on the sensor readouts. Jake's hand rested on the back of Lyra's chair, a gesture of solidarity that had become familiar over the long days of their journey. "Wait," Lyra said suddenly, her skin flashing with excitement. "I'm picking up something. It's faint, but yes, it's definitely the prototype's signature." Jake leaned in, his eyes widening as he saw the data. "It's coming from that system ahead. Looks like a habitable planet." As they entered the system, the energy signature grew stronger. The rescue fleet moved into orbit around a lush green world that pulsed with life. "We're detecting the ship's energy signature on the surface," reported the sensor officer. "It's intact, but there's something else down there. Life signs, a lot of them." Jake and Lyra exchanged a look. "We need to go down there," Jake said, already moving towards the hangar bay. Lyra followed close behind, her skin rippling with anticipation. Their shuttle descended through the planet's atmosphere, breaking through a canopy of towering trees to land in a small clearing. As they stepped out, they were immediately struck by the alien beauty of their surroundings. The jungle was alive with bioluminescent flora, pulsing with colors that seemed to shift and change before their eyes. Following the energy signature, they soon came upon the crash site of the prototype ship. The vessel lay half buried in the soft earth, its hull scarred but largely intact. Signs of recent activity surrounded the ship: trampled vegetation, makeshift tools, and strange reptilian footprints. "They survived the crash," Lyra said, her voice filled with relief. "But where are they now?" Jake knelt to examine the footprints. "These tracks lead away from the ship. Looks like they weren't alone when they left." They followed the trail deeper into the jungle, their path illuminated by the strange glowing plants. As they pushed through a dense thicket, they suddenly found themselves face to face with a group of alien beings. The creatures were reptilian in appearance, with iridescent scales and large intelligent eyes. They brandished primitive weapons, but their stance was more curious than aggressive. Jake slowly raised his hands, showing he was unarmed. Lyra's skin pulsed with calming patterns, an instinctive Illyrian gesture of peace. One of the aliens stepped forward, making a series of clicking sounds. Lyra activated her universal translator, and after a moment of processing, words began to form. "You come from Sky? Like other Sky people?" Jake nodded slowly. "Yes, we're looking for our friends, the other Sky people. Can you help us?" The alien tilted its head, then gestured for them to follow. As they walked, Jake and Lyra learned that these beings called themselves the Zarazi. They spoke of the Sky people with reverence, describing how they had fallen from the stars in a great metal bird. The jungle gave way to a clearing, and Jake and Lyra gasped in awe. Before them stood a massive settlement built into and around colossal tree-like organisms. Structures of woven vines and polished stone spiraled up into the canopy, connected by bridges of living wood. As they entered the settlement, a crowd of Zarazi gathered, clicking and chirping excitedly. And then, emerging from one of the structures, came two familiar figures. Eric and Tara stepped into view, their appearances slightly altered by their time on this alien world. Eric's beard had grown out, and Tara's skin seemed to pulse in harmony with the bioluminescent flora around them. Their eyes widened in shock as they saw Jake and Lyra. "Jake? Lyra?" Eric called out, his voice thick with emotion. How long has it been?" Jake rushed forward, embracing his friend. "Months, man. We've been searching for you for months." As the four reunited, their joy was palpable. But beneath the surface, there was a tension, a sense that their adventure was just getting started. Eric and Tara exchanged a look, a silent communication born of their shared experiences. "There's something you need to see," Tara said, her voice carrying a weight of importance. "Something that could change everything." She led them to a structure at the heart of the settlement where a strange, pulsing crystal sat upon a pedestal. Its glow seemed to resonate with the very air around it. "We call it Zerazium," Eric explained, his hand intertwining with Tara's. "And it's going to revolutionize interstellar travel as we know it." As Jake and Lyra stared at the crystal, absorbing the implications of Eric's words, a low rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. The Zerazi began to chatter nervously, their eyes turned skyward. "What was that?" Jake asked, a feeling of unease settling in his stomach. Eric's face grew grim. "That," he said, "is why we can't leave just yet. The clock is ticking, and we've got a planet to save." The rumble grew louder, and through gaps in the canopy, they could see the sky beginning to change color, taking on an ominous red hue. The true scale of their challenge was only just beginning to reveal itself. The sky above the Zerazi settlement darkened to a deep crimson, casting an eerie glow over the alien landscape. "We need to get back to the ship," Eric said urgently, his eyes fixed on the turbulent sky. "There's no time to explain everything here." As they hurried through the settlement, Jake and Lyra exchanged worried glances. The Zerazi around them chittered nervously, some pointing to the sky while others sought shelter in their tree-like dwellings. "What about the Zerazi?" Lyra asked, her skin pulsing with concern. "We can't just leave them." Tara shook her head. We're not abandoning them. Trust us, we have a plan. They reached the clearing where their shuttle had landed, the prototype ship still visible in the distance. Eric quickly ushered them aboard, his movements precise and practiced. As the shuttle lifted off, Jake caught a glimpse of several Zerazi boarding the prototype ship. Before he could question it, Eric's voice came over the comm system. All ships, prepare for immediate departure. Follow our lead precisely. The rescue fleet, hovering in low orbit, fell into formation behind Eric and Tara's shuttle. As they ascended through the atmosphere, the red sky gave way to the star-studded blackness of space. There, Tara said, pointing to a cluster of asteroids barely visible in the distance. That's where we need to go. As they approached, Jake's eyes widened in disbelief. Hidden within the asteroid field was a massive space station, its sleek design a fusion of human, Illyrian, and what he assumed to be Zerazi aesthetics. How is this possible? Lyra breathed, her skin flashing with a mix of awe and confusion. Eric's voice crackled over the comm. It's a long story, but the short version is Zerazium. It's changed everything. The fleet docked with the station, and as Jake and Lyra stepped out of their shuttle, they were struck by the sheer scale of the structure. The interior was a marvel of efficiency and beauty, with pulsing Zerazium crystals integrated seamlessly into the architecture. Eric and Tara greeted them, and Jake was taken aback by the changes in his friends. They moved with a fluid grace, their bodies seemingly in perfect harmony with each other and their surroundings. We know you have questions, Tara said, her voice carrying a new depth of wisdom. But first, there's someone you need to meet. They were led to a laboratory where a woman with silver-streaked hair was bent over a complex array of instruments. She looked up as they entered, her eyes sharp and inquisitive. Jake, Lyra, this is Dr. Ilara Voss, Eric introduced. She's been instrumental in helping us understand and develop Zerazium technology. Dr. Voss nodded in greeting. We've been expecting you. I assume Eric and Tara haven't had time to brief you on the situation? Jake shook his head, still trying to process everything he was seeing. We've been searching for them for months. How did all of this happen so quickly? Eric and Tara exchanged a look, their hands intertwining in a gesture that seemed both familiar and alien. For us, it's been years, Tara explained. When our ship interacted with the collapsing wormhole, it created a temporal bubble. We experienced decades while only months passed for the rest of the universe. During that time, Eric continued, we've been working to unlock the full potential of Zerazium. It's not just a power source, it's a key to manipulating space-time itself. Dr. Voss stepped forward, her expression grave. And we're going to need every advantage it gives us. The Purity Vanguard has gotten their hands on Zerazium technology, and they're planning a major offensive against human and Illyrian worlds. The news hit Jake and Lyra like a physical blow. The implications were staggering. How do you know this? Lyra asked, her skin pulsing with concern. Tara gestured to a bank of screens displaying a dizzying array of data. Our connection to the Zerazium has enhanced our abilities. We've been monitoring galactic events, piecing together the Purity Vanguard's plans. Eric's expression hardened. We have a plan to stop them, but it's risky. We're going to create a network of stable wormholes throughout Allied space, allowing instant reinforcement of any world under attack. But the energy requirements are massive, Dr. Voss interjected. It would require Eric and Tara to permanently link themselves to the station's Zerazium core. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What does that mean exactly? It means we'd become one with the station, Tara said softly. Our consciousness would expand, allowing us to control the Zerazium network directly. The weight of their words hung in the air. Jake opened his mouth to respond, but was cut off by a blaring alarm. Dr. Voss rushed to a console, her fingers flying over the controls. Long-range sensors have detected a Purity Vanguard fleet entering the system. They're heading straight for us. Eric's eyes met Tara's, an unspoken decision passing between them. We're out of time, he said. We need to begin the symbiosis process now. As Dr. Voss led Eric and Tara to a chamber lined with pulsing Zerazium crystals, Jake and Lyra found themselves coordinating with the rescue fleet to mount a defense. The first waves of Purity Vanguard ships appeared on the interfaces, their weapons charging. Jake felt a moment of despair at the overwhelming odds, but then something extraordinary happened. The space around them seemed to ripple and flex. Suddenly, Allied ships were blinking in and out of existence across the battlefield, outmaneuvering the Purity Vanguard vessels with impossible speed and precision. "It's Eric and Tara," Lyra gasped, her skin flashing with excitement. "They've done it!" As the battle raged around them, Jake watched in awe as beams of light streaked out from the station, marking the birth of the galactic wormhole network. The tide of battle was turning, but he knew this was just the beginning. In the heart of the station, Eric and Tara, their bodies now fused with the Xyrasium core, embraced their new existence. Their consciousness expanded across the network, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. The Purity Vanguard fleet regrouped, preparing for another assault. Jake gripped the controls of his ship, his heart racing. Whatever came next, he knew the future of the stars hung in the balance. Balance! The Xyrasium-powered wormhole network pulsed with energy, bending space and time to their will. Jake watched in awe as Allied ships materialized and vanished across the battlefield, outmaneuvering the Purity Vanguard with impossible precision. "Eric and Tara are incredible," Lyra breathed, her skin flashing with excitement. "They're coordinating the entire fleet." Jake nodded, focusing on the tactical display. "But the Vanguard isn't giving up. Look." The enemy fleet was regrouping, adopting a new formation. Jake felt a chill as he realized their intentions. "They're going for the station. All ships, tighten defensive perimeter." As the battle raged, Dr. Ilara Voss burst onto the command deck, her face pale. "We have a problem," she announced, pulling up a holographic display of Eric and Tara's vital signs. "Their physiology is evolving at an accelerated rate. The Xyrasium is changing them on a fundamental level." Jake studied the rapidly shifting data. "Is it dangerous?" "Potentially," Voss replied. "Their bodies are adapting to channel immense energies, but the strain could be too much. We need to monitor them closely." Suddenly, alarms blared across the station. Lyra's hands flew over the controls, her skin pulsing with concern. "Internal sensors are picking up anomalies, multiple signatures, moving fast." "Infiltrators," Jake muttered. "How did they get past our defenses?" As if in answer, a shimmering distortion appeared at the far end of the command deck. It solidified into a group of armed figures, led by a tall Illyrian male with features startlingly similar to Tara's. "Koran?" Lyra gasped, recognizing Tara's estranged brother. The Purity Vanguard operatives raised their weapons, but Koran held up a hand. "We're not here to fight," he said, his voice calm but filled with conviction. "Take us to Eric and Tara." Jake's hand hovered over his sidearm. "Not a chance. This station is now in lockdown." Koran's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand. The Xyrasium technology is too powerful. It can't be controlled by any single alliance. We're here to end this before it goes too far." As tensions rose on the command deck, Eric and Tara's consciousness expanded through the station. Unable to physically intervene, they reached out telepathically to Jake and Lyra. "The central core," Eric's voice echoed in their minds. "Koran's heading there. You have to stop him." Jake and Lyra exchanged a quick glance, then sprang into action. Lyra's skin flashed, momentarily blinding the intruders, while Jake vaulted over a console, tackling one of Koran's men. In the chaos, Koran and two of his operatives slipped away. Jake and Lyra gave chase, following Eric and Tara's mental guidance through the station's twisting corridors. They reached the central core just as Koran breached the final security door. Inside, Eric and Tara floated in a pulsing matrix of Xyrasium energy, their bodies intertwined with glowing tendrils. Koran raised a strange, Xyrasium-infused weapon. "I'm sorry, sister," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "But this ends now." Before he could fire, Eric and Tara's eyes snapped open in unison. A wave of psychic energy flooded the room, freezing everyone in place. In that moment of connection, Eric and Tara reached out, pulling Koran's mind into their shared consciousness. Koran gasped as the full weight of their experiences washed over him. He saw the wonders they had witnessed, felt the profound understanding they had gained of the universe's interconnectedness. He experienced firsthand the potential of cooperation between species, the beauty of shared knowledge and purpose. As the mental link deepened, something unexpected happened. The introduction of Karan's Illyrian mental patterns created a catalyst, pushing Eric and Tara's hybrid physiology to a new stage of evolution. Their bodies began to separate from the Zyrasium matrix, transforming before everyone's eyes. Outside, the Purity Vanguard fleet launched a final, desperate attack on the station. The massive energy release from Eric and Tara's metamorphosis interacted with the Zyrasium core, creating a shockwave that rippled through the wormhole network. Jake and Lyra watched in amazement as the enemy ships suddenly lost power, their weapons and engines going dark. At the same time, the Allied fleet seemed to gain new abilities, effortlessly jumping through the network to outflank the disabled Vanguard vessels. In the core room, Eric and Tara emerged from their cocoon-like state. Their bodies now shimmered with an otherworldly light, a perfect blend of human, Illyrian, and Zyrasium-enhanced biology. They stood face to face with a stunned Karan, their eyes filled with newfound wisdom and power. "Brother," Tara said, her voice resonating with harmonics that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. "Now do you understand?" Karan fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the experience. I was wrong," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "The potential, it's beyond anything I imagined." Eric extended a hand, helping Karan to his feet. "This is just the beginning," he said, his gaze shifting to the battle raging outside. "And we have much work to do." As the Allied fleet pressed their advantage against the disabled Purity Vanguard ships, Jake and Lyra shared a look of wonder and apprehension. The universe had changed in ways they were only beginning to comprehend, and the true test of their newfound power was yet to come. The true test of their newfound power was yet to begin. Eric and Tara, their bodies shimmering with an otherworldly light, turned their attention to Karan and his team. With a mere thought, they manipulated the Zyrasium energy around them, creating a series of micro-wormholes that instantly immobilized the Purity Vanguard infiltrators. What is this?" one of Karan's men gasped, finding himself unable to move. "A demonstration," Eric replied, his voice resonating with harmonics that seemed to vibrate through the air. "We could have harmed you, but that's not our way." Tara stepped forward, her gaze fixed on her brother. "Karan, you've seen a glimpse of what we've experienced, but there's so much more to understand." Karan's eyes darted between his sister and Eric, his expression a mix of awe and uncertainty. I don't know what to believe anymore," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Eric extended his hand, a soft glow emanating from his palm. "Then let us show you. Join us in the network. See the truth for yourself." As Karan hesitated, alarms blared throughout the station. Jake's voice crackled over the intercom. "Eric, Tara! The Vanguard fleet is disabled. We're pressing our advantage, but we could use some guidance here." Tara nodded to Eric, who closed his eyes in concentration. In the command center, Jake and Lyra watched in amazement as holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing real-time data on ship positions and wormhole trajectories. "This is incredible," Lyra breathed, her skin pulsing with excitement as she coordinated the Allied fleet's movements. "It's like we can see every possible move before it happens." Jake grinned, issuing rapid-fire orders to their ships. "Let's make it count. All vessels, execute maneuver Theta 9. The space around the station erupted in a dazzling display of precision flying. Allied ships blinked in and out of existence, appearing behind Vanguard vessels and unleashing pinpoint attacks on their weakened defenses. Within minutes, the tide of battle had decisively turned. Back in the core room, Eric reopened his eyes, turning his attention back to Karan. "Your fleet is defeated, but that doesn't have to be the end. Join us, Karan. See what we've seen." After a moment's hesitation, Karan nodded. Eric and Tara each placed a hand on Karan's temples, their fingers glowing with Zyrasium energy. Karan gasped as his consciousness was suddenly catapulted into the vast network of knowledge and experience that Eric and Tara shared. He saw visions of countless worlds, of species working together to achieve wonders beyond imagination. He felt the interconnectedness of all life, the potential for growth and understanding that came from embracing diversity rather than fearing it. As Karan's mind reeled from the experience, Eric and Tara guided him gently back to reality. Tears streamed down Karan's face as he looked at his sister with new eyes. Tara, I was so wrong. Everything we believed, everything the Vanguard stands for, it's all built on fear and ignorance. Tara embraced her brother, their bodies briefly pulsing with shared energy. It's not too late to change, Karan, to help us build something better. As the siblings reconciled, Eric's attention was drawn to a strange sensation coursing through his body. He looked down to see tendrils of Zirasium energy dancing across his skin, responding to his thoughts. With a mere gesture, he opened a small wormhole in the air before him. Tara, he called, excitement in his voice. Look at this. Tara turned, her eyes widening as she realized what Eric had done. She reached out, her own hand glowing, and expanded the wormhole with a thought. We can control it directly now, she marveled. No technology needed. Dr. Alara Voss, who had been monitoring the situation from a nearby console, approached with a mix of fascination and concern on her face. Your physiology has undergone a remarkable transformation, she said, scanning them with a handheld device. But it's also highly unstable. You'll need regular exposure to Zirasium to maintain this state. Eric nodded, closing the wormhole with a wave of his hand. A small price to pay for the ability to shape the future of the galaxy. As if on cue, the station's communication systems lit up with incoming transmissions. Jake's voice came over the intercom once more. Eric, Tara, we're being hailed by dozens of alien vessels. They're requesting permission to dock and discuss recent events. Tara exchanged a look with Eric, a silent understanding passing between them. It seems our work is just beginning, she said, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Eric took her hand, their fingers intertwining, as Zirasium energy pulsed between them. Together, he said simply. As they prepared to meet the influx of new arrivals, Eric and Tara stood at the threshold of a new era. The defeat of the Purity Vanguard was just the first step on a long journey of discovery, diplomacy, and transformation. With their unique abilities and perspective, they were poised to guide the galaxy into an unprecedented age of cooperation and advancement. But as they looked out at the stars through the station's viewing port, a flicker of uncertainty passed between them. The power they now wielded was immense, and its long-term effects on them, and the galaxy at large, remained to be seen. The challenges ahead would test not only their new abilities, but also the strength of their bond. For now, though, they faced the future united, ready to embrace whatever the cosmos had in store for them. For now, though, they faced the future united, ready to embrace whatever the cosmos had in store for them. As weeks passed, Eric and Tara led a diverse expedition to investigate a massive energy signature detected at the edge of known space. Their ship, powered by Zirasium technology, cruised through the vast expanse of the galaxy, carrying a team of scientists, diplomats, and specialists from various species. Dr. Alara Voss monitored Eric and Tara's physiology closely, noting the increasing stability of their hybrid forms. Karan, now fully committed to their cause, assisted in coordinating the mission and provided valuable insights into Purity Vanguard technology. As they approached the source of the energy signature, the ship's sensors began to fluctuate wildly. Lyra's skin pulsed with concern as she called out from her station, "We're experiencing some kind of spatial disturbance. The Zirasium engines are becoming unstable." Jake's hands flew over the controls, trying to compensate for the turbulence. "I can't maintain our course. We need to find a place to set down fast." Eric and Tara exchanged a glance, their bodies shimmering with increased Zirasium activity. In unison, they reached out with their enhanced senses, scanning the nearby space for a suitable landing site. "There," Tara said, pointing to a small rocky planetoid on the main view screen. "It's not ideal, but it's our best option." Eric nodded, relaying the coordinates to Jake. "Take us in. We'll use our abilities to help stabilize the ship during descent." As they entered the planetoid's thin atmosphere, Eric and Tara channeled their Zirasium energy into the ship's systems, creating a cushioning field around the vessel. Despite their efforts, the landing was rough, jolting the crew in their seats. Once the dust settled, Jake ran a quick systems check. "We've sustained some damage to the propulsion systems. It'll take time to repair." Dr. Voss approached Eric and Tara, her scanner whirring. The planetoid's environment is hostile, but your hybrid physiology should allow you to survive without protective suits. This might be an opportunity to gather more data on your adaptability. Eric and Tara shared a look of understanding. We'll explore the surface, Eric announced. The rest of you focus on repairs. Karan, you're in charge here. As they stepped out onto the barren rocky landscape, Eric and Tara felt the harsh environment testing the limits of their new forms. The air was thin and acrid, and the gravity slightly stronger than they were accustomed to, yet their bodies adapted quickly, Zerasium energy pulsing beneath their skin. They trudged across the desolate terrain, their enhanced senses picking up faint traces of Zerasium scattered throughout the planetoid's crust. As they crested a ridge, Tara suddenly stopped, her eyes wide. "Eric, look," she breathed, pointing to a series of strange, weathered structures partially buried beneath the surface. They approached cautiously, their bodies humming with increased Zerasium activity. The structures were unlike anything they had encountered before, covered in intricate markings that seemed to resonate with the Zerasium within them. Eric ran his hand along one of the markings, feeling a faint vibration. These symbols, they're similar to what we saw in the Zerasium matrix. Could this place be connected to its origins? Before Tara could respond, their communication devices crackled to life. Karan's voice came through, tinged with excitement. "Eric, Tara, I've made a breakthrough. Using some modified Vanguard tech, I think I can activate an energy field surrounding one of the larger structures. Should I proceed?" Eric hesitated for a moment, then replied, "Go ahead, Karan, but be careful." Seconds later, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The air crackled with energy as massive, crystalline structures erupted from beneath the surface, rising towards the sky like ancient sentinels awakening from a long slumber. Pulses of energy radiated from the structures, interfering with their communication devices and causing Eric and Tara's Zerasium-enhanced abilities to fluctuate wildly. "We need to investigate further," Tara said, her voice strained as she fought to maintain control of her powers. "Whatever this place is, it's clearly tied to Zerasium in ways we don't yet understand." Eric nodded, his form shimmering as he struggled to adapt to the energy pulses. "Agreed, but we can't risk the entire expedition. We'll split into 2 groups." They quickly relayed their plan back to the ship. Dr. Voss would lead one team to continue repairs and maintain communication with the Galactic Council. Eric, Tara, Karan, and a select group of specialists would venture deeper into the newly revealed crystal structures. As they approached the largest structure, its surface seemed to ripple and shift, responding to their presence. Eric and Tara, drawing on their unique connection to Zerasium, placed their hands on the smooth crystalline wall. Energy surged through them, and a previously hidden entrance slid open with a low hum. Inside, they found themselves in what appeared to be an ancient control room, filled with technology far beyond their current understanding. Holographic displays flickered to life as they entered, responding to their Zerasium-infused bodies. "This is incredible," Karan whispered, his eyes wide as he took in the alien technology. Eric and Tara stepped forward, their bodies glowing with intense Zerasium energy. As they interfaced with the alien systems, their minds were suddenly flooded with fragmented information about an ancient, highly advanced species that once harnessed the power of Zerasium to traverse the universe. The strain of processing the vast amount of information caused them physical pain, but their hybrid physiology adapted, allowing them to continue. Karan and the other team members watched in awe as Eric and Tara's forms shimmered and fluctuated, their bodies seeming to merge with the energy field surrounding them. Suddenly, the entire planetoid began to vibrate violently. The crystal structures outside started to realign themselves, and the team realized with growing amazement that Eric and Tara's interaction with the alien technology had initiated some kind of transformation process. As the planetoid itself began to change, revealing its true nature as an enormous ancient spacecraft, Eric and Tara's consciousness expanded beyond the confines of their physical forms. They experienced a profound connection to the universe itself, gaining insights into the nature of Zerasium and its role in the fabric of spacetime. Their bodies pulsed with Zerazium energy, creating a mesmerizing display of light and color that filled the control room. Quran and the other team members were forced to retreat to a safe distance, unable to withstand the intense energy emanating from the couple. As their physical forms continued to evolve, pushing the boundaries of their hybrid nature, Eric and Tara found themselves faced with a monumental decision. The ancient spacecraft hovered on the brink of full activation, its power capable of either ushering in a new era of exploration and understanding or potentially unleashing chaos across the galaxy. Their bodies began to merge, creating a singular entity of immense power and knowledge. In this unified state, they grappled with the weight of their choice, knowing that their decision would shape the future of countless civilizations across the galaxy. In that moment of unity, Eric and Tara's consciousness expanded beyond anything they had ever experienced. The vast knowledge of the ancient civilization flooded their merged minds, revealing the true nature and potential of Zerazium. As one being, they hovered in the control room, their form a shimmering, pulsating mass of energy. The decision before them was clear. They could harness this power to control or even neutralize the spacecraft, but that path felt wrong, limiting. Instead, they chose integration and harmony. Their unified form began to pulse with intense energy, creating a dazzling display of light that filled the control room and spread throughout the structure. Quran and the other team members shielded their eyes, awestruck by the spectacle unfolding before them. Eric and Tara extended their consciousness outward, connecting with the Zerazium crystals scattered across the planetoid. As they did so, the ancient spacecraft systems hummed to life, its purpose finally understood and embraced after eons of dormancy. Outside, the expedition team watched in amazement as the entire planetoid began to transform. The rocky surface shifted and rearranged, revealing more crystalline structures beneath. The transformation accelerated, and soon the entire planetoid had become a massive glowing sphere of intricately patterned Zerazium. Within the control room, Eric and Tara's unified form began to separate. Their individual bodies slowly reformed, but they were forever changed by the experience. As they regained their distinct shapes, they found themselves more deeply connected than ever before, their bond transcending physical boundaries. Tara opened her eyes, her skin shimmering with residual Zerazium energy. She looked at Eric, seeing him as if for the first time. "We did it," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Eric nodded, reaching out to take her hand. The moment their fingers touched, a small burst of energy pulsed between them. "We've created something incredible," he said, his eyes scanning the transformed control room. Quran approached them, his expression a mix of awe and reverence. "What you've done, it's beyond anything I could have imagined," he said. "I was wrong about so much. The power of cooperation, of unity. It's clear now that this is the path forward." As they exited the structure, they were greeted by a breathtaking sight. The once barren landscape of the planetoid had been transformed into a lush, bioluminescent ecosystem. Crystalline plants pulsed with Zerazium energy, creating a mesmerizing interplay of light and color. Dr. Alara Voss rushed up to them, her scanner whirring as she took readings. "Your physiologies have undergone another significant change," she reported, her eyes wide with excitement. "The level of symbiosis between your bodies and the Zerazium is unprecedented." As they made their way back to the ship, Eric and Tara explained what they had learned and what they had done. The ancient spacecraft was now part of a vast, stable wormhole network that spanned the entire galaxy, allowing for instantaneous travel and communication between all connected worlds. They found their ship fully repaired and enhanced, its systems now seamlessly integrated with the new Zerazium network. As they boarded, Eric and Tara felt a surge of excitement at the possibilities that lay before them. "We need to inform the Galactic Council," Tara said as they settled into the bridge. Eric nodded, already reaching out with his enhanced abilities to establish a connection. "This changes everything," he said. "The potential for exploration, for bringing species together." As the ship took off, effortlessly entering the new wormhole network, Eric and Tara stood side by side, their hands intertwined. The Zerazium energy pulsed between them, a physical manifestation of their deepened bond. They exchanged a look of understanding, knowing that their journey was far from finished. As guardians of this new galactic order, they would face challenges and opportunities beyond anything they had experienced before. But together, united in their love and their shared purpose, they were ready to guide the galaxy into a new era of harmony and discovery. The ship streaked through the wormhole network, carrying them towards a future bright with possibility. As they traveled, Eric and Tara began to plan their next steps, knowing that the task of introducing this new technology to the galaxy would require diplomacy, patience, and wisdom. Their enhanced bond allowed them to communicate without words, sharing thoughts and feelings with a mere touch. As they worked, the rest of the crew watched in fascination, witnessing the birth of a new kind of relationship, one that transcended the boundaries of individual species. As they approached the Zerazium station, now visible through the ship's view screen, Eric and Tara stood together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The station seemed to pulse with new energy, as if already connected to the vast network they had created. "Are you ready?" Eric asked, squeezing Tara's hand gently. Tara nodded, her eyes shining with tenacity and love. "Together," she replied, "we're ready for anything." The ship began its docking sequence, bringing them closer to the moment when they would share their discovery with the rest of the galaxy. As they prepared to disembark, Eric and Tara knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for them, but for all sentient beings across the cosmos.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.